After reviewing your comments, I'm learning that Mike Watt was just simply the guy. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Low End University. A few weeks ago when I did Descendents and listened to them for the first time, I read that they had two different bass players who played very differently at different times in the band. That was Tony Lombardo and Carl Alvarez, and it was fun comparing and contrasting their input into the same band and how it changed their sound. So today I'm going to flip that idea and do the same bass player in two different bands. That's Mr. Mike Watt, who first played in Minutemen, and then shortly after he played in the band Firehose. And I'm kind of annoyed, honestly, that I haven't listened to this guy. I've read his name before, but I've just never listened to his music. And I'm annoyed because I'm reading that Watt has been called, quote unquote, one of the greatest bassists on the planet. CMJ New Music called Watt a seminal post-punk bass player. Readers of NME voted Mike Watt one of the, quote unquote, 40 greatest bass players of all time. And LA Weekly awarded him the number 6 spot in the 20 best bassists of all time. In 2008, Watt received the Bass Player Magazine Lifetime Achievement Award presented by Flea. And then to top it off, the Red Hot Chili Peppers dedicated their best-selling album, 1991's Blood Sugar Sex Magic, to Mike Watt. So that's high praise. I'm excited to hear him. And this is going to be Vietnam from their third studio album, Double Nickels on the Dime, which is released in 1984. Without further ado, let's get to it. Minutemen and the track Vietnam. Huh.
Let's say I got a number. That number's 50,000. That's 10% of 500,000.
This has a really funky, it just sounds like jazzy in a way. Did not expect this. I always think these songs are going to be a lot harder than they are, and they always go in this different direction. And this is sort of heavy and has intensity, but I'm always just so surprised at just the different takes. I know I say this every time. It truly is fun for me to kind of hear and watch this unfold going down this journey. I'm going to go back to the beginning and try not to really pause. We're only at a 1 minute and 29 second song, but this is unexpected flavor. Wow. Okay, G sharp A on that intro. C. This is so old school and funky to me.
Let's say I got a number. That number's 50,000.
Okay.
That's 10% of 500,000.
That's cool.
Oh, here we are. In French Indochina.
This sounds like a very familiar sound to me, and it's mainly because of the guitar. The guitar is cleaner, and it's got that kind of Nile Rodgers sort of chickadee thing going on, just very rhythmic and percussive. And again, the bass is kind of leading it. It's a common thread with all of these songs. You guys pick them well. Very bass heavy, and it honestly sounds like you plucked any kind of funky Motown era song and just gave the bass player a pick and turned him up. I like that. It's a different tone in a familiar sound. And even the note choices are really kind of chromatic and bluesy. Sounds like we're going D to C. And then it goes back down in reverse. That's just kind of a blues scale and a syncopated kind of phrasing. I like that. And it goes up to that E, which is a different color. The guitar is really cool. And I just, the way it blends with that really upfront picked bass, pretty sure it's picked bass, getting better at kind of distinguishing. Sometimes you just can't tell. Sometimes I think it's a pick and it's not. Sometimes I think it's fingers and it's not. So I don't ever try to assume anymore. So we're halfway. Let's play it out. Very cool.
Executive order, congressional
Even the vocals have kind of a classic,
Working masses are manipulated.
I don't know what to call it.
Was this our policy?
E to F sharp.
Headlong years.
So they went up a whole step there. I think they did that same thing. Let's see.
Not one domino shall fall.
That's so tight. Wow. Very interesting. That was just like a little sliver of funky heaven to me. And, you know, I've just read so much in your comments and just a little bit of research beforehand. This is very punk oriented. And I think the rhythms of punk are more akin to funk. Nice rhyme, Mark. But I like that it's just always got a little more teeth on it, a little more speed, a little more just, I don't want to say passion, but fervor. This was a very interesting take. I like the old school feel. You know, I'm just going to use the Motown reference again. Not really the style of the song as it is face value, but just some of the orchestration, some of the rhythms, some of the tones, again, the guitar. But you could very much tell the bass had the dog leash in this whole song, really pulling it along. And I really dig the vocals. They kind of have a classic bluesy soul sound. Soul's a word I've been looking for the last couple minutes. Very interesting take. Let's move on to Firehose, because this one and this story is very interesting to me. So I'm reading that Firehose was formed directly after the death of Minutemen's frontman, D. Boone, Mike's bandmate. And I read that he was very depressed. And I'm also reading that D. Boone was the guy in the band, playing guitar, singing, and being the songwriter. And this story kind of gave me chills, because it says Minutemen continued until December of 1985, when Boone was killed in a van accident in the Arizona desert on Interstate 10. He was killed on a desolate stretch of road just west of a small town called Centennial, Arizona. Because he had been sick with fever, Boone was lying down in the rear of the van without a seatbelt while his longtime girlfriend Linda Kite drove. The van's rear axle broke, and the van ran off the road, and Boone was thrown out the back door of the van and died instantly from a broken neck. And it gives me chills because as someone who's toured for a long time, there's been 3 times I've almost died. And the worst one, I was saved. Literally, my life was saved by Dave Ellefson, who used to play bass in Megadeth. And if you want to hear that story, go find my Symphony of Destruction reaction video analysis. At the very end, I kind of tell that story. Myself, Victor Wooten, Rex Brown, Evan Brewer. There's a lot of bass players on this bus, but that's really tragic. And this kind of reminds me of like Cliff dying in Metallica, where the members in some form or fashion had to move on and keep writing music. So I'm interested to see, you know, what style Firehose is going to be, because it says here they're alternative. I don't know. You know, you guys have kind of told me not to go too far with the Wikipedia genre labels. But without further ado, we're going to get now to Brave Captain, which has been highly requested, which is from the band's debut album immediately after this accident. Ragin' Full On was their first album, released in 1986. So let's get to it. Brave Captain by Firehose. Okay, I was guessing this is like a music video, which was kind of exciting because I can see them play. I haven't done this in a while.
There are doubts regarding your ability to lead them. The men lead them. There are doubts in your ability. There's too many blinds in your analogy.
I like already the hybrid fingerstyle and slapping. Nothing uncommon, but I didn't expect to see that here. And, you know, sometimes all slapped lines can be a little fatiguing to listen to. And personally, this is just more of my personal subjective opinion on the matter. I like when slap is used more as an accent or an effect and not really the whole focus of the technique used. Just my opinion. And I like that he's using it just for those certain accents to either, you know, go along with the drums or something in the vocal phrasing. It could really be used anywhere in that fashion. But I'm glad to see some fingerstyle. A lot of these guys have been pick players, or at least so I assume, hearing the tones and kind of what's coming through. And I'm not really much of a pick player myself, even though I just covered a Less Than Jake song that was more of a challenge to myself. But this is very cool. Love the bass. PJ, that's my favorite pickup configuration. In fact, this bass is a PJ as well, because a PJ precision and jazz pickup is what that called. You see those two pickups there that are kind of look like a Z shape. One's kind of in front of the other. That's a precision pickup, and the one behind it is a jazz. And those two together are my favorite tones. So EMG makes those inside of a soap bar. That's the exact tone I use. Precision, EMG soap bar, and then the jazz. And I just love the tone it makes, because you can get that kind of nasally jazz bass, or I'm sorry, neck pickup sound. Kind of sounds more like a P bass. Then you go the other way and you get more of the jocko-y kind of jazz tone. And you combine them and you kind of get this rich best of both worlds thing going on. So that's cool to see, because I love this pickup combination. And honestly, this is kind of similar. Let me keep going and kind of hear a little bit more. Nice syncopation. See, it's just done very tastefully. I like that.
Lieutenant, there is talk.
Kind of a really dancing bass line too. All those upbeats. Still has that kind of same funky sensibility as the last song. And now I'm wondering if he played with a pick in the last song. I don't know. It sounded like it to me, but you know, if he can just shuffle between both techniques seamlessly for different things, and that's something we all aspire to do, just to be good with multiple techniques and whatever, you know, scenario or atmosphere it's really called for.
Pertaining interpretation of problems. Describe them. Problems. There are doubts in your ability. There's too many blanks in your analogy.
Really like the singer. Wow.
The enemy.
I want to point out something there that was interesting. You know, they could have easily stood in a more traditional power trio sort of setup. This is interesting. They're kind of in a line, and he's standing behind the drummer. And, you know, I may be reading into this too much, but I kind of like that. Despite the bass being so up front, you know, for whatever reason, I don't have any context here, but him standing back there like that is, it's kind of like the bass player's watching over the band in a way. And, you know, that could be for a couple reasons. Seeing the drummer, you know, we often as musicians on stage just kind of have to hear the drums behind us. And there's not much opportunity to be behind the drums and kind of watch what they're doing and be able to lock into that musically, not just by hearing them, but seeing them. And I know this is a music video, and again, I don't have the context, but, you know, if they perform like this on stage, that could be a very cool perk of being in some sort of formation. So I don't know. That's just something I saw. Why wouldn't he be standing parallel with the guitar player? I don't know, but no context, just something I noticed. Pretty cool.
The enemy turns captain. The captain.
This is infectious.
turns civilian.
It really is.
The lieutenant becomes casualty. The lieutenant.
He's using those passing tones there really well, too. Landing on that B flat, kind of going down. And honestly, when I look at this riff, it's actually pretty similar to the last song we did. It's relatively the same key. It's kind of using those, you know, those spot notes in the blues scale. And that might just be a kind of a hallmark of his style to give the piece a little bit more of a jovial funk groove instead of being so diatonic, using some of those chromatic passing tones, which is a blues scale, is just a minor pentatonic scale with a flat 5 added in. So minor pentatonic, flat 5 gets thrown in. You can't call it pentatonic anymore because penta is 5, so now it has 6 notes. I hear that note used a lot, and it just kind of gives a good direction to the bass line. That part was really interesting. The way the drums just kind of stopped and lost the phrase to went in and just do that with the bass part. Kind of like, hey, we're going to act up a little bit while you're doing the guitar solo back here. That's kind of neat. Tight.
Turn captain. The captain turns civilian. The lieutenant becomes casualty. The lieutenant becomes casualty. There are doubts.
Cool halftime. I haven't gone down to that F yet. When I get on that kind of third chord, he kind of rips a solo. Listen to that. That was a cool little bass fill. Tasty. So I had a lot of fun in the Descendents video hearing 2 different bass players in the same band, and they really contributed different things. And that was really interesting for me to hear with no context, being my first time hearing Descendents. So now I can kind of hear how one bass player can arguably imprint their same identity and sound on 2 different bands. Now, I kind of thought Firehose and Minutemen might sound a little more different. And there are surely some key differences, but I can kind of see how the label alt or alternative might be put on Firehose. Maybe it's just the vocals. They were a little more melodic, a little more sing-alongable, anthemic. It was a bit more of the focus, whereas Vietnam from Minutemen, I think the music was a little bit more of the focus, and the vocals were just kind of another layer instead of being the focus. But darn, his sound is ubiquitous on both songs, and you can clearly kind of tell his same playing style kind of seep through the cracks. Keeping it really syncopated, lots of upbeats, very busy bass, but it never sounded over the top. And I feel like in Firehose, he held back a little more and stuck to that staple groove. And kind of as the song progressed, he went on and got a little more ambitious. But Minutemen, it sounded like he pulled all the stops from 0, 0, 0 timestamp right at the beginning. It was really crazy and upfront. So heck of a bass player. I mean, I need to listen to more. I also read he had a band called DOS, that was somewhere around this time period. Didn't have a ton of requests for them, but reading this here on the bio, it of course shows up. But interesting that Firehose was formed under those circumstances. That's such a tragic thing, but I'm really glad to finally be introduced to Mike and his really brilliant playing for that time period. So thank you guys for recommending Minutemen Firehose. I was happy to do them in the same video with some of these shorter songs. Please like the video, subscribe. It really helps me out. And if you want to support the channel further, come join me on Patreon. There's lessons, licks, tracks, other reactions, Helix patches, you name it. We're having a lot of fun over there. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Again, let me know what you think of the format, and we'll see you next time. Love you all. Cheers.